In 1972, the dense jungles of Papua New Guinea stretched endlessly beneath the wings of a Royal Australian Air Force patrol plane. The crew, tasked with a routine reconnaissance flight over this remote corner of the Australian Commonwealth, expected nothing more than the usual blur of green. But on that fateful day, as they skimmed the clouds above the Agayambo swamp, something unusual broke the monotony. A strange, white shape glinting amid the sea of foliage. At first, it blended into the landscape, just another patch of wilderness. Then, as the plane banked for a closer look, the crew realized they were staring at something extraordinary. That fleeting glimpse marked the beginning of a discovery that would echo across the world. The unearthing of the Swamp Ghost, a World War II B-17 flying fortress lost to time. The story of the Swamp Ghost begins decades earlier, on December 6, 1941, just one day before the infamous Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. The B-17, a massive four-engine bomber nicknamed the Flying Fortress by a Seattle Times journalist in 1935, was a cornerstone of President Franklin Roosevelt's vision for a modern U.S. military. Known for its durability and ability to carry heavy payloads, the B-17 became a legend in the skies, dropping over 640,000 tons of bombs on German and Japanese targets during the war. This particular fortress, serial number 41-2446, rolled off the assembly line in 1938 and joined the U.S. Army Air Forces in the Pacific Theater. In early 1942, as Japan expanded its grip across the Southwest Pacific, the B-17 was stationed in Australia. On February 23rd, it embarked on a daring mission to bomb Japanese forces in Rabaul, a strategic stronghold on Papua New Guinea's northern coast. The crew, pilot Captain Frederick Eaton, co-pilot Henry Harlow, and 7 others, took off under cover of darkness. But the mission unraveled quickly. Anti-aircraft fire punctured the plane's right wing, and fuel began leaking from the ruptured tanks. Struggling to stay aloft, Eaton turned the fortress back toward Port Moresby, the capital of Papua New Guinea, some 400 miles away. As fuel dwindled, Eaton scanned the horizon for a safe landing spot. Below, he spotted what he thought was a golden wheat field, a soft, flat expanse perfect for a crash landing. He guided the wounded plane down, bracing for impact. But appearances were deceiving. The wheat field was no field at all. It was the Agayambo swamp, a treacherous morass of water, mud, and crocodiles. The B-17 skidded to a halt, half submerged, its engines silenced. Miraculously, all 9 crew members survived the crash with only minor injuries. Yet their ordeal was far from over. Stranded in the swamp, the crew faced a new enemy: malaria carrying mosquitoes and the ever-present threat of crocodiles. For days, they slogged through the mire, weakened by hunger and fever, until they stumbled upon a native village. The locals, awed by the airmen and their massive bird, nursed them back to health with traditional remedies. Weeks later, the crew reached Port Moresby, where they were hailed as heroes and promptly reassigned to new missions. The B-17, however, was left behind, forgotten by the U.S. military and swallowed by the swamp. To the villagers, it became a sacred relic, a swamp ghost shrouded in mystery. For nearly 3 decades, the plane lay undisturbed, its aluminum skin dulled by time but remarkably preserved by the swamp's oxygen-poor water. Papua New Guinea, a hotbed of World War II activity, became a graveyard for countless aircraft, but few survived as intact as this one. War tourism surged after the conflict, with adventurers scouring the island for relics of Japanese, American, and Australian forces. Yet the swamp ghost remained hidden, known only to the locals who revered it. Fast forward to 1972. The RAF crew, peering from their patrol plane, couldn't have known the historical weight of their find. They reported the sighting, and word reached two men uniquely equipped to unravel the mystery: David Talichet and Fred Hagen. Talichet, a World War II veteran and aviation enthusiast, and Hagen, an expert in salvaging war relics, were no strangers to Papua New Guinea's wartime legacy. When they heard about the white anomaly in the swamp, they suspected it was more than just debris. They assembled a team, secured funding, and launched an expedition to investigate. The journey was daunting. The Agayambo swamp was a wilderness of tangled vines, knee-deep mud, and crocodile-infested waters. Undeterred, Talichet and Hagen led their crew, equipped with machetes, boats, and sheer determination, toward the coordinates. When they finally reached the site took their breath away. There, half buried in the muck, sat a B-17 flying fortress, its fuselage intact, its battle scars still visible. The cockpit glass was cracked but unbroken, and the iconic four engines loomed like silent sentinels. It was, as Hagen later called it, the holy grail of military aviation. The plane's condition stunned experts. Submerged in water and shielded from looters by its remote location, it was one of the best preserved B-17s ever found. But preserving it further posed a colossal challenge. The team knew they couldn't leave it in the swamp. Exposure to air would accelerate decay, but moving a 50-ton bomber through crocodile territory was no small feat. Media frenzy erupted as news of the swamp ghost spread, drawing crowds to Papua New Guinea and pressure to act fast. Talichet and Hagen spent years planning the salvage, which began in earnest in the 1980s. They faced resistance from locals who saw the plane as a spiritual guardian. After delicate negotiations, the villagers agreed to release it, but only after a ceremony to appease the swamp's spirits. In 2004, a Russian Mi-26 helicopter, the largest of its kind, hoisted the B-17 from its watery grave. The world watched as the flying fortress rose, dripping with mud, and was ferried to Leh, then shipped to the United States. The swamp ghost arrived in Long Beach, California, where relatives of the original crew gathered to see it. From there, it traveled to the Pacific Aviation Museum at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, where it remains on display today. Restoration, costing over $5 million, was a labor of love for Talichet, Hagen, and a team of experts. They repaired the wings, replaced missing parts, and polished the hull, revealing the bomber's wartime glory, complete with bullet holes and faded insignia. For the people of Papua New Guinea, the plane's departure was bittersweet. It had drawn tourists for decades, boosting the local economy, and its removal left a void. Yet its legacy endures. One of only 4 intact World War II-era B-17s left in the world, the Swamp Ghost stands as a testament to human ingenuity, survival, and the enduring echoes of war. It bridges past and present, reminding us of the sacrifices made in the Pacific Theater and the unexpected places where history hides.